All right, so welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin.
I'm Tarsha.
This is Conversations with the Crawleys, and we do conversations about a lot of things, definitely about relationships. We are your YouTube relationship coaches. So we've been kind of watching some things that have happened, and you know we do Ready to Love recaps, reviews, and commentary. And one of the couples that we have come to love from this whole process that was the success story.
Poster child.
They having some problems.
Yeah.
They going through some things. And so we want to talk about Simone and Rashid. And particularly, they had a recent interview, breakup, yes, but a recent interview conversation with Dear Wifey podcast, right? So we wanted to definitely talk through some of the things that we saw in that. So if this is content that you enjoy, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, request notifications, and share. We'll see you in the comments. Consider becoming a member and checking out the merch store. All right.
All right.
So let's just recap, get everybody on the same page, right? So Rashid and Simone met on Ready to Love Houston. They were not together at the end, but during that process, they did have a date that even I remember us watching was like, oh, that could work, right? Rashid at the time was looking elsewhere, but afterwards we started hearing and seeing that, oh, they were connecting, they were friends, and then they began to date. They have the Ages and Stages podcast. I know that last season for Ready to Love in Miami, he proposed to her. I think it was a reenactment, if you will, of the proposal to her.
No, it was actually the proposal because right after they left Ready to Love, they had a party, right? Because he flew everyone down.
Right, that's right. So they got engaged, and so it was like, okay, they're moving forward. They're a success story from Ready to Love. And then a few weeks ago,
a couple weeks ago,
Rashid posts a video on his Ages and Stages podcast YouTube channel. Basically just coming clean about some things that as far as what he's done within the relationship, really again geared more toward not infidelity as far as him cheating on her, but infidelity as far as financial issues.
At least that's what she calls it.
That's what she calls it, right?
She calls it.
And then Simone also then went on kind of her tour, and I know she's been on like Little Black Book and a couple other places, and then so we saw them on the Dear Wifey podcast, and we both watched that video, and we got some feelings about it.
Yep, and we didn't talk, so we didn't discuss,
so and y'all getting the raw conversation.
We're getting this raw conversation because I was like, watch this video. I think there's some tips that we can give others that are coming to this stage that may be having trouble right after they've been engaged.
Right.
And we were about to talk about it. I said, you know what? Let's just wait. We're just going to record it as we had the feelings about it. And then you can see how close our thoughts are together about what occurred.
Yes. You want to go first?
Well, you okay. So
because I talk a lot right now.
Oh, okay. So they come on Dear Wifey, and they start to explain together because at this point they have broken up.
Yes.
And she's
moved out.
She's moved out, and you can tell sadness. You know, his video was sad. I watched the whole video of him. And as they're talking and they're discussing what brought this breakup to occur as they're engaged, they bring up some things that they both agree on. And I agreed about, and I was thinking about while they were talking about it.
Okay.
The first thing was Rashid doing counseling, having therapy.
Yes.
And he's like, yeah, he started therapy. And then he says, what? Why am I starting therapy? You need to be fixed too. You needed therapy. So I'm not going to just go therapy. And he stops therapy. Okay. So my thought about that, and Rashid admits it closer to the end of that 2 hour, it was a 2-hour session. That it was him pulling back because of the therapy. It was an excuse of getting out of therapy.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was like, exactly. Also, this is about you getting better.
Right.
and you getting better, not for just yourself, but for your relationship.
Well, the primary reason to go to therapy is to get better for yourself, period, relationship or not. And so,
right, that's I said first.
Yes, right. And so, so the relationship, in my opinion, is I don't even want to say it's an afterthought. It's not really. If you're really wanting to get better, the relationship is just kind of like the down the road, around the corner type of thing of like, I'm getting better, and that will help that, but I need to be whole first, right?
Right.
And so for him to do I believe that Simone needs to have some therapy as well?
Oh yeah, everybody should go to therapy.
Listen,
everybody should go to therapy.
We talk about deliverance and therapy. They do work together. They can happen and work very well together, right? But for him, yes, to pull back. One, it was a coping mechanism, if you will, where it was like, I'm pulling back because this is getting a little too real, too raw for me, maybe.
Correct.
And I'm going to point my finger at you rather than, because it takes the pressure off me pointing what therapy is doing, which is pointing fingers at me.
Exactly. And so when I don't know if it dawned on him then or he was just willing to admit that, I wasn't ready for the therapy and I backed out of it.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. And she doesn't say that, I try to keep encouraging him because she was like, yeah, I know I needed help too. But she never says she went, which I think that would have encouraged him to continue to go if she decided to go.
Right.
Because throughout this whole hour and 45 minutes, and even, Lord Jesus, I forget his name. The host, it's just slipping my mind.
That's fine.
But he says, we're really putting you on the hot seat and not her.
Right.
Because I think maybe if she had started going, maybe he would have continued going.
Lateris.
So maybe but that's always an afterthought, right?
Right.
The second thing that they agreed to, which was in the back of my mind, is where was the premarital counseling? And I see a lot of couples make this mistake about premarital counseling and not going. I recommend everyone to go to premarital counseling.
Yep.
So they only went to a couple sessions and they stopped. Why do people stop or not go? Because they make excuses of, I don't want the pastor or the reverend to be all in my business and blah, blah, blah. We've done premarital counseling. It's not about getting in your business.
Absolutely.
I really don't want a lot of details.
We've done some premarital counseling. We're like, stop, time out. We really, no.
But what it's supposed to do is to give you the homework, but we're supposed to ask questions. Then when people are in love and, they're all in the clouds, they're not earthly minded at the time.
Right.
Right. And so they need questions to really talk to their spouses. So we're bringing these questions to you in premarital counseling to help you say, I never thought about that. Right. What do you think about this? What is your views about this? What is your belief about this? How are we going to raise the kids? How are we going to have a blended family?
Right.
It's for you to have those questions afterwards and be honest.
Yes.
About a lot of different things.
Because a lot of times what we've seen is that people will think that, it'll change or it'll get better, or it'll do this after you get married. And no, sorry, the test drive that you think you're taking right now, that's not the full test drive. So premarital counseling really helps you to test drive what's going on in the relationship from somebody who is outside of it, saying, have you considered these things? Right? Even in our premarital, there were some things that was like, okay, we hadn't considered that. We've had a great relationship. We've always had to be able to communicate, have the ability to communicate, but it still helped us to go to another level to say, okay, we didn't think about that. We were so in love that we didn't consider this and what this would look like within the marriage. Right?
Well, and then also in our premarital, list 5 things you don't like about the person that possibly will never change.
Yep.
And I think when you can't think of anything, that was scary for me. I was like, I can't even think of anything.
That's it.
And
that could be a red flag.
Right. That could be a red flag saying, look, there has to be something about this person.
Because nobody's 100% what you want them to be.
No, not at all. And so having to go back and say, yeah, the person that I love, care, has flaws, and they may never change.
And am I okay with those flaws?
That will never change.
For better or for worse.
If they don't
for
change.
Richer, for poor.
Can I put up with this?
Am I okay with that?
And so those are the first two things that came up within the first 30, 45 minutes of the clip that I felt like would be a good relationship coach tip.
Yeah.
That those are the things that they should have been working on. Then the third thing that came up for me was key in what I wanted to kind of share in our video is I heard she wanted to fix it.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a quick fix. I thought I could fix this. I didn't realize how deep it was. It's more than about the money, right? She explained and he agreed that it was almost like a gambling addiction, right?
It was that, and it was also his really tied in with his relationship with his father. And so it was a father wound also that was being impacted, right?
And also his feeling and inadequacy
as a husband. As a husband in his previous relationship.
Yes, but even going back before that, about him having a disability as far as education-wise.
Yep.
Right? So let's go back there.
Yep.
And so with those things, she's like, I didn't realize how deep it was. And that she thought it was going to be, and this is might be my words, a quick fix.
Yeah.
And she was like, that's going to take him time to work through. Yeah. And it came off, and I know she may not have meant it this way, but that she wasn't willing. She's like, I don't want to wait for it. I was like, but baby girl, you don't have to wait for it. Why? Because let me tell you, there's no perfect person.
Right.
This is the most perfect you're going to get. You say a man who you felt you could trust him. You knew he was not going to cheat on you.
Yep.
You knew that he had a drive and a motivation, and you know he's a hard worker and that he's a good dad. With all those great qualities, if he says he's willing to work on it, that's someone you can rock with because he's saying he's going to work on it.
Right.
And for him to come out saying, look, I don't want you to resent me after we get married. So I'm going to tell you now, because I realize I don't want to mess up, even though I did all those things, because my internal side, that internal battle that we have with wanting to be a better person and the old person still hanging on, until you get to the root of those things, they won't change.
Yeah. Yeah, the statement that he made of being, you can either resent me now or you can resent me later, was a good statement and a good way to approach it, because there's a different kind of resentment 12 years down the road.
There's a different kind of resentment.
And so him being man enough, but I don't even want to say man enough, but being authentic enough.
That's good. That's it.
Being authentic enough to say, I'd rather you resent me now.
That's it.
And if this is it, this is it.
That's it.
And now the thing I do that I take issue with Simone, as far as what was said, was initially when he told her, because basically this kind of broke down when he was like, look, why don't we elope, because I don't have the money for our destination wedding. Her initial response was, okay, yeah, that's great. And then after she, I guess, had a moment to think about it, what have you, and then, because she made some statements that related to, if we can't do a $17,000 wedding, what are we doing?
Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Here's the thing. I know everyone wants a great and memorable wedding. Absolutely. But are you spending more on the wedding and not the marriage? right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the wedding is a great celebration. And if we're honest,
Mm-hmm.
you're throwing a party for your friends.
Mm-hmm.
I had one of my brothers, one of my buddies who I've known for 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
His son recently got married,
Mm-hmm.
and his son was a little miffed because the wedding celebration didn't go exactly how he wanted to go. He wanted this to happen and that to happen. And my friend was like, "Son, listen, you just threw a party for your friends to celebrate with you your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
You have the rest of your lives, hopefully, to go ahead and really have the marriage and the celebration that you want to have
Mm-hmm.
for yourself."
Mm-hmm.
And so I get, yes, you're wanting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have the money, you have the money, and that's
Right.
what you want to spend it on. Absolutely. But don't let that be the deal breaker. Don't let that be the thing that's like, we can't get married because we can't afford a destination wedding.
Well, but I get her point.
I and that's what I'm saying. I hear both sides of it,
Mm-hmm.
but what I want to caution people about is not feeling like you've got to do this whole big expensive wedding.
Right. Because you can do it very reasonable.
Yeah.
You know, depending on where you go.
And everybody ain't got to come eat with y'all.
No, they don't.
You ain't got to pay $50 a plate for your third cousin in-laws.
No, you don't. But I think in her situation, because she was saying, you decided to get a Porsche. You decided to do these other things where you could have found a car that would consider significance or wealth, but you decided you wanted to do this instead of putting me as a priority.
So yes, I do get that.
I totally get that.
Yes.
And so would I first say, oh yeah, because what? I love you. I just want us to get married. But then I go, oh no, Joker, you want to get out of this because you decided to do something different.
Yes.
And that's not going to agree with me. And I agree with what she did in saying no, you know, but at the same time, it's like, okay, then what are we going to do now?
Right.
Because, you know, granted, yeah, maybe he's like, you know what, I am going to move back to my place and we need to decide how we're going to get through counseling. What I would have loved to see both of them do instead of just breaking up, you know, it sounds like it was more on her.
Yes.
I would say it would have been more better for her to say, we both need to go to counseling.
Yep.
And we both need to figure out how we're going to work through this situation. Because what I feel like they were going through is what married people go through.
Yeah.
I feel like he gave her an opportunity to say, look, I have an issue now and I want to tell you about it. I want to tell you what I did wrong before you say I do. But this is a great opportunity to say, if we can make it through this and we're both gonna grow through this situation,
right.
What would have been a very great opportunity to show, yeah, I love you, but I'm also already deciding to make the commitment.
Right.
The paper and me signing it is only the paperwork. So legally it shows that.
Yeah.
But when you're saying that I want to marry you, I'm carrying your name, that I'm going to make a commitment to you. Because again, he doesn't have an addiction to our knowledge.
Right.
He makes bad choices. And when he comes to risk in his mind, he keep feeling like he can fix it.
Right.
But it puts him further and further in a hole.
Right.
Which there are people that think that way. Businesses you start up doesn't overnight, right? So that's why I feel like this could be a solvable relationship if everyone decides to participate in the process of growing.
Because here's the thing you also have to understand. The great marriages, really, you identify your weaknesses and their weaknesses, your strengths and their strengths, and figure out how those things mesh and how they work together. There are some things that I am absolutely great on, and there's some things I am absolutely horrible on. But that's where she fills in. I am a visionary. I can give you 150 ideas of how something can be done. She is the one that comes and says, okay, what about this?
Well, how are you going to execute that?
I didn't think about that. Okay, what about that? So she brings structure and organization to my ideas and my thoughts.
And do you like it all the time?
I hate it a lot of times, if I'm
like,
honest, right?
You killing my dream. I'm
now
like,
I gotta actually, I want to live in this la la land of this is what it's going to look like, and now you bring me back to reality of how we get there. but it's helping us in a lot of things that we do,
Mm-hmm.
that having that balance of she knows what my strengths are.
Mm-hmm.
I know what her strengths are. She knows what my weaknesses are. I know what her weaknesses are. So we help to cover those things because guess what, y'all? That's what marriage is.
That's what marriage is.
If we talk about covenant,
because you're
I
gonna.
know we don't like to use that word now, but covenant is my strength being your weakness. Excuse me, my strength covering your weakness, and your weakness, your strength covering my weakness.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're going to continue to find there's things in the person you're marrying or married to later on.
Yep.
That's not showing up in five. Let something else tragic happen where you have to work through and see how people's feelings or how what comes out of that in those times, right? Because until you put pressure on something, you don't know what it will produce.
Exactly.
Right? So those were the first things that was kind of like thinking about and saying, this sounds fixable. This sounds, and not just because I want them to be together, which I want everyone who decides that they found a good match for them to be together.
Exactly.
I just feel like what I'm hearing is like, this is really fixable if we both get out of each other's way.
If you stop overthinking it, if you stop looking at it as
a time frame,
right?
Because that's another thing.
So the fact that because you know what the major issue is between you all, and you guys were working through it.
Yes,
it just didn't happen in the time frame and in the manner that Simone was thinking,
or that she could fix it.
Right?
Because women want to fix things.
True.
And some things is not. I don't want to say it's not fixable, but you can't do it. And I understand her saying, I don't want to be an enabler. Yeah, but at the same time, you can be a support. Right. Saying, hey, I love you. Right now, I think we should postpone because I think there's some things that we still need to understand about each other. You know, and she says, I can't be submitted unto someone who's making all these wrong decisions.
Right.
Granted, I am hearing that. That is understandable.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like it's something that he wants to be better at and do it well. I mean, being a husband and making better choices.
Right.
So I wouldn't say break up, but I've been more like, let's continue our engagement journey.
Right.
And see if we can have a clear understanding of where you are and where I am.
Both of you go to counseling and both of you go to therapy. Right? Let the counseling be the thing that
premarital counseling.
Right? Premarital counseling be the thing you all work on together to build your relationship. But go to therapy, both of you individually, to work on yourself so that you enter the marriage. And you hear us say this a lot, as a whole person, because a whole person and a whole person make a whole marriage.
Right.
But a half a person, a hurt person, a wounded person is going to make a wounded, hurt, or half marriage.
Right. And I think closer to the end of the conversation, because even Latarius was saying, I think y'all could get back together. I think this can work out. And Rashid says, yeah, because I made another video. And I want to say kudos to them because one thing they did say was like, we decided to put our relationship out there
on Front Street.
And people admired you know, what we had going on. And so we had to put the bad out there as well. So kudos for them to keeping it real, saying they wanted to be a real couple.
Because they very well could have just disappeared and nobody knows
like what happened. Right. You know, whatever.
Because can we that's one of the things I know I don't like. We had a couple that they asked us to be in their wedding, to participate as far as a portion of their wedding. They had, invited us to the wedding and everything like that, right? But then when one person comes to me, like I think the spouse came, the wife came to, I think both of us. It was like, we're having some problems. And so I'm reaching out to the guy saying, hey, let's talk, man. What's going on? Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I would respect my privacy. Hold on, bro. You invited us into your relationship by asking us to support you, to stand with you and all that stuff. So now why are you kicking us out of this whole thing because you're going through stuff? So I appreciate, I say that to say, I appreciate Rashid and Simone saying, hey, we've invited you into our relationship. now that we're going through some things, we want to tell you about our journey still, not for likes, not for, notoriety, but to show this is what couples will go through.
And so with that being said, he says, okay, this is my plans and I'm going to videotape my journey.
Yep.
Because he said men reached out to him because they have this facade. They have a car that they don't own and he's coming and repossess that, And so people and women who are playing or being someone else, or trying to personify.
Be inauthentic.
Right. Personify being this rich person or whatever they feel like they need to be to the world, that he's going through this journey and plan. And so then she's like, Latarius is like, what do you think about this? He's like, that's good, but I don't hear the therapy. And he's like, okay, yeah, I do need to add the therapy because I don't know what it is. The therapist is not going to beat you over the head for you to just start throwing things out. But I think we're so afraid of the thing that's keeping us in bondage that we rather stay in prison to it than allowing that person to become free. Yeah. And I know it's hard and it's hard to do for some people to start facing themselves and getting free from it. So they rather stay in the chains. And I think that people have to make a decision because I've gone to therapy, I have. And making those decisions to say, I'm willing to be brutally honest and you to brutally tell me, and for me to really think through what type of person I am to help me work through those issues.
Absolutely.
And so here's the statement that was made that I feel like all women do this, but also it could hinder or not help your significant other. So Latarius asks us like, so what are the things you're going to look for that he needs to work on that you can get back together?
Right.
And she says, I don't want to tell him because then he's only going to do it because I said it.
Yeah.
And I was like, boy, I've been there before. I don't want to say it because then you're just doing it because I said it. And then it won't be authentic. It won't be you trying to do it on your own. Well, I hear that and I've been there and I've said those things, but at the same time, they're only going to do what they're going to do. But if you're saying, look, for you to be in my life, you have to show up a certain way. Give them the ability to say yes or no if they can show up that way.
Right.
Because no one can hold on to your standards unless they know what your standards are.
If we can just use a sports metaphor, if I know where the goal line is, I know what I'm pushing towards. But if I don't know where the goal line is, I could be running in the complete opposite direction. And you're saying you're not meeting my needs. Well, you've never told me what the goal line is.
Right.
Right. So yeah, you have to say these are just like you're quick to say, you might be quick to say, what are the deal breakers? I need to know what the goals are. And then that way I can know what I'm pursuing, what I need to get to. And then, yes, you can judge that and say, no, it happened one time. That's inauthentic. Or, okay, you're consistently showing up in this area doing that thing. Then because you all know it's harder to fake as you keep going along.
Right. Well, and also, again, like I said, it gives you the option.
Right.
Because once I tell you, using your analogy of the goalpost, once I tell you this is the goalpost.
If I don't want to go there, I ain't going
and then
there.
You go, I can't keep that up.
Right.
That gives a person to say, I have the option of, can I meet your goals?
Yep.
And if I can't meet that, just as I was honest to tell you how I messed up, I can honestly tell you, you know what, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to work for me.
Or you know what? Yeah, I can do that because that's what my goal is anyway.
Right.
Because I want to do it and not just because you want to say it. And you're giving me the option to meet that. So that's the other thing, because Latarius didn't dig deep, because that's his term. Well, let's talk about that. Let's go deeper in that. And he decided not to go deep in that area. And I know they're about 45, an hour and 45 strong
right
at this time, right? So I think those are the things that we find in a lot of relationships where people struggle with. They struggle to tell their spouse or significant other, hey, for you to stay in my life because maybe you broke a boundary or you broke up something that we committed to do together.
Right.
Then now for you to regain my trust, this is how I need you to show up.
Exactly.
I want you to figure it out. Well, what do you want to do? Well, when I see it, I see it. And then I just know. That doesn't work.
Because in all honesty, it's like if that's how it's approached, you know what? I'm not going to try and figure it out. I know I messed up. I know I violated. But if you're not going to tell me what I need to do to help repair this, then what you might be telling me is that it's irreparable.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the main things I think we picked up out of that entire conversation. Our hope is, I know for me, I'll speak for myself, but you kind of mentioned it. I think our hope is that they do find themselves back together, because again, I think that what they're looking at is fixable.
It is fixable.
It's not irreparable as far as their relationship.
It's not.
I didn't see anything that was a permanent deal breaker. I think there are things that they just need to work on and work through. And then once they do that, if the love and everything that we seem to see was genuine, then hopefully you just had your first major fight.
Major fight as a couple.
Major, almost deal breaking fight. But you can move past that. So.
Yeah, I believe they can move past it. And I think for Simone, if I was talking to her and I was like, girl, you got everything you want, what you're looking for in your husband. Don't allow this to say, you know what? Nope, I'm going to start fresh. To do what? When you find the next person, what is going to be their thing that they're not sharing?
Right.
And you feel like, oh, I'm finally getting everything I want. Then you get married and it comes 3 or 4 years down the line and you do have a child.
Right, because that's the other thing she's talking about. She's mentioned is that she feels like she's lost so much time, and it's like, and even Lateris was like, y'all just started dating like a year and a half ago. You haven't lost, like, it's not like you've wasted 10 years with this man and just now coming to this, right? So it's not like you're having this. In theory, if this is fixable, yeah, you might delay your marriage a year or so, right? But just think about if you're having to start all the way over and find somebody new, and you couldn't. I'm not saying you couldn't find, but you didn't have anybody to this level.
Oh, she can find somebody.
Oh, yes.
The problem is you're not going to find anyone perfect.
Absolutely.
And the problem is they're going to have another issue. And that person, it
may not be an issue,
and if it doesn't show up before, guess what?
It's going to show up afterwards.
It's going to show up in your marriage.
Yep.
And then, are you saying because you're committed to the paper you have now, then you're going to work through it, and you're going to have to wait that time?
She an attorney, she's going to find the loophole in it. So
I know, but that's what I'm saying. When you get most of what you're desiring in the person, and you're feeling like this is the best match for me, everybody has flaws.
Yeah.
This is going to take a while. Yeah, it's going to take your whole relationship. He could do well for the next 5 or 6 years. You start having kids, and then all of a sudden, maybe the old person try to creep up
because again, the pressure, and part of it, again, I point to, he mentioned the pressure or the issue that he had in his previous marriage, where it was kind of like they were saying that he wasn't a provider, right? So that could, if that issue is never really fully dealt with, you all have a kid now. It could pop up again. So
it could pop up. I'm not hoping the man just really, but again, what I'm trying to get the perspective for her to understand is you got basically a good package.
Right.
But maybe got a hole in the bottom of it. Patch it up. Allow it.
Fix it.
Allow it to heal.
Right.
And be on that journey with them. It grows your relationship.
Yep.
Because granted, he's going to have to put up something with you. And it's, guess what? For you to become a better person and grow, no matter who you're with, you're going to have to fix something.
Yeah.
And if this is it, this is not too bad compared to what other people have to stay married to repair.
We've seen some doozies,
so that's all I'm saying.
I got you.
But I digress.
Yeah.
Again, because I believe that people can find people and say, you know what, I'm making a decision to take all of you. And it could work.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to say, because we're into people for love, because that love fades. Because right now they like each other. She might not really love him right now, but she really likes him.
Mm-hmm.
Then they need to get back to the place where love comes back.
Yep.
But there's times you're only going to like.
Yep.
And then love comes back because you go through the ups and downs of a good relationship.
Because sometimes it's not love that's keeping you together. Sometimes it's just your commitment to each other.
Your commitment.
So, all right. Well, listen, that's it. That was our thoughts. If you watched the video, let us know your thoughts. If you didn't watch the video, let us know if this is helpful to you, if this is something that maybe is helpful for you in your relationship or giving you some things to think about. But that's it for this one. We'll see y'all next time. Have a great one. Be blessed.